Welcome to Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. I'm Cupp, and we can finally say it. It is election night. It's the night we've been waiting for since the June primary, and it's here. Decision night 2025 for the all-important New York City mayoral race. Later in today's show, we'll talk to some experts, as well as some voters who are very excited about this race. But first, let's go straight to each of the campaign headquarters for the latest news. First up is Morgan McKay, political reporter for Fox 5 New York, who is at the Mamdani headquarters. Morgan, what's the vibe there like at Mamdani headquarters right now?
Hey, SC. So we were just allowed inside the theater here at Brooklyn Paramount about an hour ago. The doors don't actually open for the public until 9 p.m., which caught us off guard a little bit, I think, because usually, as you know, on election nights, you like to have your supporters inside, maybe have a few drinks in them before polls close at 9 p.m. As it is now, they're probably going to be in line at 9 p.m., and the Board of Elections tells us this could be a fast update on where things stand. So we're just waiting to see. Right now, it's just a lot of reporters, and we're just waiting to see what's next. And behind me you can see that stage, and that's where Zohran Mamdani is going to be giving either his victory or concession speech a little bit later tonight.
So what have you heard about where he was today? What are his plans for tonight, and when we might see him this evening?
So he was crisscrossing across the 5 boroughs, according to his campaign. He was in Fort Greene earlier today with State Attorney General Letitia James, and he was on the Lower East Side. He's been really just popping up around the 5 boroughs. He voted early in the morning this morning with his wife, who we actually haven't seen too much on the campaign trail, but they were there together. Now tonight, again, we're just waiting to see how fast these election results come in. They're going to be counting the early ballots already. So the Board of Elections told me yesterday they could be updating that on their website as soon as 9:05, 9:15 tonight. So we could see results as early as 10 o'clock. That could be wishful thinking, SE, but we could see results early. So we could see him coming out to give that speech maybe around 10:30 if we're lucky.
Morgan, thanks so much. We're joined next by Linda Schmidt, who is joining us from the Cuomo headquarters. Linda, what's Andrew Cuomo been up to today?
Well, first of all, SE, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back with you again. But I have reached out to the Cuomo campaign multiple times in the past couple of hours, asking them where he is. Is he out campaigning? Is he hanging out with his family and friends? What is he doing? Because the polls are still open for about another 2 hours. He could still be out campaigning. So far, I have not heard back from them. I also asked when he's going to be arriving here at his campaign headquarters at the Ziegfeld Ballroom in Midtown. Have not heard back from them about that either. Now, about 8:30 in the morning, and then it was about 10 o'clock this morning that he showed up at a high school in Midtown with 2 of his 3 daughters and his son-in-law to vote. And then after that, there was a little bit of a press gaggle after that, and he did say that he felt the high voter turnout was going to be a good sign. Now, we're going to have to wait and see if it really turns out to be a good sign for him or a good sign for Mamdani.
Yeah, so what you're saying is we could be asking, where in the world is Andrew Cuomo right now? He's just not been very visible?
He has not been visible since he voted at 10 o'clock this morning. And one thing that's really interesting about that, SE, is that after he lost the primary back in June to Mamdani by 13 points, he said that he was going to totally change his campaign strategy and he was going to start meeting voters where they are, meaning doing what Mamdani was doing, being out on the street, going into the bodegas, talking to cab drivers as they drive by on the streets. We did not see him change his campaign style until about 2 weeks ago. So some experts are saying that could end up being too little too late.
Linda, thank you. We'll know soon. And now over to Sleewood headquarters with Fox 5 New York reporter Kendall Green. Kendall, where is Sleewood's headquarters located, and how is the mood there?
Hey, SC. Well, we're here on the Upper West Side on the 72nd Street at Art Cafe. And basically, Curtis Sleewood isn't here right now, but there's several of his volunteers here on hand, as well as multiple journalists here as well, and a couple of volunteers' kids running around. But we see a bunch of the swag, a bunch of the bags, T-shirts lined up, ready for supporters to come here and get set. But the mood right now is kind of some anticipation. You see people looking around, kind of curious about what's going to happen next.
I'm sure. Now, Curtis, as we know, has been one of the most active campaigners this election, and Election Day is no different. Where has he been today, Kendall?
The question is, where hasn't he been? I mean, he started early. He started this morning alongside his wife, who casted her ballot on the Upper West Side, and then he moved later on to the Bronx around 11 o'clock, and then he took another step. He went to another school around noon, and then he was at another school around 2. So he's been moving around as if he's got a lot to prove. I mean, he's on the last final step before they start counting those votes. So he's been on the run for sure. That's
typical of how he has campaigned this entire season. Any word on when he's going to arrive there or when he plans to speak?
Not just yet. Not just yet. They haven't let us know when he'll arrive. But I think his last engagement looks like it was around 7 o'clock near Bay Ridge Elementary School. I'm sure he'll make his way here shortly after that.
So this is my question. We just heard from Linda that we didn't really know what Andrew Cuomo was doing today. Did the Sleewood campaign give you their schedule so you knew where he was going to be?
Listen, no stone left unturned. If you look right here, this is his itinerary. He's letting everybody know where he is, making sure he gets that last message out for those voters.
I think that's maybe the story of the campaign, the way these 3 different individuals, all New York fixtures in one way or another, have managed to differentiate themselves by their campaigning over the past few months. Very different operations, but no one could say about Curtis Sleewood that he didn't get out there and pound that pavement.
For sure. They called it a blitz today, and I know we've seen him on the subway several times, several press conferences, so today, no different.
Okay, Kendall, well, thanks so much, and stand by. I'm sure we'll be going to you again soon. And up next, we know how the campaigns are doing, because we've been talking about them and covering them and talking to the campaigns. But what about the voters? Remember, this is about voters. Let's talk to them. Battleground NYC. We'll be right back after the break. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. Let's get to more analysis on this race. Joining me now is Lisa Evers, a reporter for Fox 5 New York. And Lisa, you've been covering this race. You've been talking to voters all throughout the election. It's so important. What have you been hearing today, though, in these final hours?
See, today it's all about the passion. The voters, no matter who they're planning to vote for or voted for, it's the passion. They felt that this was their duty. The one phrase we didn't hear this whole campaign season, and that we definitely didn't hear today, is voter apathy, because it's the exact opposite. People are fully engaged, fully charged, and really determined to get out there and vote no matter what they have to do.
So are you saying you're seeing the same kind of enthusiasm we saw around the primary and early voting?
I think it's even more intense because we had a whole weekend. You know, this last week in particular, we're talking about Cuomo not being that visible today, but over the last couple of weekends, all 3 of them have been doing heavy on-the-ground campaigning with, reporters following them. So there's been that back and forth that a lot of people were craving earlier in the campaign season. And, where they're making attacks at each other, they're getting real-time comments and responses. So it was very exciting for a lot of voters.
Are you getting a sense of who voters are excited for?
I think each one, and I'm not just saying this to be fair, but I think it's the actual truth. Mamdani's people we know have been very engaged from the very beginning, a certain type of enthusiasm. Sleewood, there was one of the polls was an enthusiasm measurement poll. I don't know how they did it, but they said his followers were actually, even though the people following him were smaller in number, were higher rated in terms of enthusiasm. And Cuomo had solid support, but it was people basically feeling, in many cases, that they had no other alternative, that this was the choice that they had to make, that it was more of a duty if they wanted things to stay relatively the same in New York.
That doesn't usually bode well for a candidate like that, but this race is not like any other race that I've ever covered in New York City, so we'll have to see. As you know, President Trump has also been inserting himself into this local election. Have you talked to any voters, I was wondering, who said that he is the reason that they're voting the way they are, whomever that's for, whether that's for Mamdani, for Cuomo, for Sleewood? Has he come up?
He definitely has come up with some people, but these are the people that are fixated on President Trump as the reason for whatever is wrong that they feel is wrong in the city. So it's something that they're fixated on, and it doesn't seem like they're really paying that much attention to what that particular candidate. But most of the people, it's very, this is a local race.
Yes.
There's a lot of issues that are facing New York, and I think that one one of the things is, it's whatever their key issues are that they're, focused on. And for a lot of people across the board, for all three candidates, affordability. Even though Mamdani has made that the cornerstone of his campaign, the other two have had to address it a lot because people feel it every day. You can't ignore that issue when every time you go to the store, something's costing a little bit more. You look at your utility bill. Whoa, how did that go up $50?
Right.
All of those types of things. It's like right in people's faces all the time.
So we know affordability has been a huge issue.
Yeah.
Have you heard of other issues coming up today as turnout drivers?
I think the one is going to be accountability. That we've heard about affordability, but also accountability. And I think people are like, okay, at this point in the campaign, ideas are great. How are you going to make them happen? And how are you going to make them happen if you have the federal government willing to step in on a moment's notice to do whatever they feel they need to do in order to protect the country as a whole, but especially this piece of land called New York City?
That's a thing that's happening in the midst of this. But another thing that's happening in the midst of this is the government shutdown. I'm wondering if that came up at all today.
I think some people, one of the big concerns is this food issue. People talk about SNAP, that's affecting a certain percentage of people, but also you have other people in the backs of many New Yorkers' minds. How stable is my job? How reliable is my job? If I lose my job, am I going to be one of the people that has to wait online for 3 hours with a shopping cart at an outside pop-up food pantry in order to feed my family?
It's really interesting to think about how the national politics, national debates have impacted this race and how this race is impacting the national debate.
Well, it's all one, they're so intertwined, and especially as you know in New York City, anything to fund anything, nothing is just, very few things are fully funded by the city alone. It's city funds, state funds, federal funds. You have to be able to navigate this labyrinth of all these competing agencies and who's in charge of this, who has this jurisdiction, and it's very, very difficult for any candidate.
Yes. Lisa Evers, thank you so much for your analysis throughout this entire Battleground season. We've really loved your on-the-ground reporting.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you, Essie.
Okay, up next, whether it's affordability or housing, crime, public transportation, or education, parents drove a lot of the conversations of this election. We'll talk to two moms who became activists this cycle and what they're hoping happens tonight. We'll be right back with more Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. And joining me now for the bigger picture are the Mamdani moms, Paloma Naderi and Marisha Pareek. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Well, it's great to see you in person. As Battleground fans know, we had you on, I'd say about halfway between the primary and election day, where you told us how Zohran Mamdani inspired you to become canvassers and organizers. How have the last few weeks of campaigning been?
Last few weeks of campaigning, we're even more excited now than we were then, if you can believe it, for a couple of reasons. Like, first, I'll just speak to the incredible community of moms that we're building. It's only grown over time. We've had the great fortune of having some higher profile moms come and tell us and using their platform and influence to highlight the issues that are super important to parents. And then also we've just gotten the chance to meet so many everyday moms just like us who are now meeting each other, meeting to volunteer together and sort of get involved in all of this. And we are also still canvassing in our neighborhood where we're speaking to all types of voters. It is an unsettled area, we'll say that. And having a great time really sort of highlighting what's important to us. We're finding voters really like to hear what's important to moms.
Sure.
Whether they're a mom or not, and then that leads to productive and wonderful conversations.
Moms always drive these conversations, don't we? What are the top issues that motivated you to pull the lever for Mamdani? And when you're asked about the issues, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think to yours and Paloma's points, the reason that we've been so excited about Mamdani's campaign is that his platform is based on policies that matter to working families. Things like affordability of housing for all New Yorkers and smart policies to actually move that forward. Things like universal childcare and treating childcare as a public investment like schools or roads, and so that people can give all of themselves to their careers and their families. And safety, which depends on both prevention and a smart response, which is something that's on parents' minds all the time.
And Marisha, to people who would say Mamdani, he just isn't ready. He's too young, he's too inexperienced, and maybe the promises he's making are unreasonable at best or dangerous at worst. We've heard all that criticism. So what's your response? How do you defend a 34-year-old with very little experience going in to take on this giant job?
Yeah, well, as moms, we are used to being underestimated. I will say that. I think all experience is not good experience, and we have to look at someone's quality of experience and not just the number of years that they've been doing a certain job. Zohran has been an incredibly effective and beloved assemblyman. He has led this meteoric campaign over the last year, a campaign based on hope and inspiration. There's a lot of policies in this city that were seen as unrealistic until they were done, like universal pre-K. It's only unrealistic until enough people want to fight for it and have someone to fight for them.
And Paloma, any concerns about a Mamdani win tonight? I know you want him to win, but maybe regarding how the president might turn on New York and punish New Yorkers if Mamdani wins.
I think that's on a lot of people's minds, Essie. But I think, as we all know, New Yorkers do not back down. Moms do not back down. And Zohran will not back down either. And we're feeling heartened that he'll be in our corner. It should all go well tonight. And a comment that rings in my head all of the time is one that former Governor Cuomo made early on in his campaign, where he said that federal agencies are going to come into New York City and they're going to commit unconstitutional actions, and that we should not overreact. And we don't believe there's any overreaction to unconstitutionality and to issues and forces that might impact our most vulnerable New Yorkers. Those are our neighbors. We're going to stand up for them. And we've been also really heartened by blue city mayors, Boston Mayor Wu and Chicago Mayor Johnson. And we think Zohran's going to follow in similar footsteps and stand up for the city.
Trump, as you know, he's a formidable opponent. You know, a lot of people think that they can take him on, and they can't. What gives you reason to believe Zohran Mamdani is the man to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen it. I think that we've seen it often. I think that he is a candidate of integrity. That's something we talk about a lot as parents. That is a value that we do not see in all public figures, and it's one we really want to instill in our children. So I think that we trust him, I guess, is the best way that we can put it.
Well, good luck to you both tonight, and thanks for coming on our show and talking to us about your activism and your canvassing and your candidate. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Essie.
Paloma and Marisha, thanks again. Up next, a big topic in this election has been regime change. And how will young voters sway the final vote? Battleground NYC will be right back. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote, one more time with the bigger picture. And for this segment, we're joined by Kaivan Shroff, Democratic commentator and attorney. Welcome, Kaivan, and also happy birthday.
Thank you. Great to join.
It's a big night for you. It's a big night for us, too, but it's really a big night for you. And Battleground watchers and listeners will recognize you from a lot of our post-debate nights.
Yes. It's
I'm
been
excited.
A pleasure joining you.
I'm excited to have you here. So let's get your quick analysis on the final days of this campaign. Did each candidate do what they needed to do in the closing arguments?
Absolutely not. So
Okay,
I think,
good.
you know, Andrew Cuomo, I know we talked about last time, he had that strong debate, and really every choice since has, I think, been a blunder. He's really devolved into the darkness, a lot of racism and vitriol, when I would have said he would have been happy to close his chapter in this race as opposed to the alternative of being, you know, a resigned governor. Mamdani, this was a beautiful campaign from start to finish. You know, I'm not the biggest Mamdani fan myself, I will say, but I even got a little choked up watching his last cut video where he went back to those cross streets where a year ago he was speaking to New Yorkers about what wasn't working for them, and now he went back and obviously all these folks saying they're going to vote for him. A reminder that anything's possible.
What about Curtis Sleewood?
You know, Sleewood stayed Sleewood throughout this campaign. I think, you know, he certainly gained a newfound following and popularity among a bunch of young people, Mamdani himself. So interesting to see his evolution.
I know. I've been covering Curtis Sleewood for a very long time, right? And it's fun. It's fun to watch him out there. He loves to be out there. This race, as you know, also has the nation's attention. Republicans are hoping to get a useful foil in Zohran Mamdani, but Democrats are also looking at what's possible. What lessons should the party take from this race? And what lessons should they perhaps not take if you were advising them?
Well, I think one key lesson, which is not new to say at this point, is the focus on affordability. But what I will say is not reading too much into the rest of Mamdani's campaign in terms of messaging. I don't think this party is headed more towards the left. If anything, we saw a huge win, or projected win at least already, for Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. And she ran on affordability and housing from the center. And so I think that's the key message. And you have Gavin Newsom, another centrist, who's going viral every day. So I don't think it's impossible to build that online support either with moderation.
So maybe don't take the ideological lesson, but maybe take a practical lesson about
and
ground
I think,
game.
And don't take the lesson that I think Trump's learning pretty harshly right now of over-promising a bunch of things that you're not going to deliver, because just as he made those gains with young voters and Latinos, he's lost them just as fast. And I worry that that's going to happen to Mamdani as well, of course.
Zohran Mamdani, as you know, has been in a very comfortable place these past few months in the polls. Any chance Cuomo or Sleewood could pull it out?
There is no chance, I think. I think he's run a great campaign. And one of the things to take away, too, is campaigns and candidates do matter as much as the policy. And I had a couple people who I know don't think Mamdani's going to take the city in the right direction say, well, do you think maybe there'll be an upset and some whispers? But I don't see it this time around.
Do you think it's going to be closer than the polls have had it?
I think, there will be more support for Andrew Cuomo, I think, than a lot of folks want to accept and want to realize. And I think just as much as we need to take lessons from Mamdani's success, we also need to look at that. And there are voters that, supported Trump, those quiet Trump voters in 2016 that people don't necessarily focus on and listen to. But I think our own party needs to look at that and say, why did, probably at least tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of folks get behind Cuomo?
In the end, yeah. And if Mamdani does win and Dems win in New Jersey and Virginia, will this, in your minds, be a referendum on Trump, or are these primarily about local issues in local races?
Well, I think certainly the governor's races will be a referendum on Trump. I do think this is a very specific New York City race, and a couple reasons, right? I mean, not only is Mikey Sherrill also, like Spanberger, focusing on costs and prices, again, that theme. But Donald Trump is in the White House, and while I think a lot of folks give him, great leeway, fighting against giving food to the American people right now against a federal court order. And so while I think they like some of his lawlessness and gruffness, I think at some point when he hasn't delivered on any of those promises, he's sort of losing ground here, and it absolutely is a referendum on his leadership. So
quickly before we go, if Dems pull off this hat trick, what should they do with that momentum heading into midterms?
I think what they're going to quickly want to do is distance themselves from Zohran Mamdani. And I hate to say it, but I think I hope he's successful. But option two is, as he's not successful, there's a great opportunity for more moderate folks to use this as the test case and say, look, you promised the world, you didn't deliver on it. Voters are frustrated. And look at these other great candidates that we do have that won in states like New Jersey, which is turning more purple, and won in Virginia. So I think that's going to be the argument, of course, and especially with 2026 in mind. Stakes are high.
Kaivan Shroff, thanks so much for being here tonight and throughout the season. We appreciate it. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, the rest of the week, for more in-depth conversation, context, and reporting right here on Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote.